Hello and welcome everyone. We are so excited to kick off our first webinar with our partners over at Credencies, Navigating Complexity, the 3 critical pitfalls in retail PIM implementation. My name is Abby. I am a digital marketing specialist here at Syndigo, MC of all things webinar. And I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. Our mission is to unveil some PIM solutions that you can use to achieve better data quality and operational efficiency. We're in for quite an interesting webinar. Before we get started, I'd like to just discuss a few housekeeping tips. We will be recording this presentation and we will be sharing it within our follow-up email that you're going to receive within 24 hours after the webinar completion today. Your line is going to remain muted, but if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A box in your Zoom control panel. We're going to bring them up at the end of the presentation today. But if we don't have any time at the end to discuss our questions, make sure you submit those questions non-anonymously. Leave your name so we can address those questions via email once we're all wrapped up here. All right, without further ado, let's start off with some introductions. We're joined by Sagar Sharma, co-founder and CTO at Credencies, and Julie, we all know her as Jules Gross, the designated engineer over here at Syndigo. So without further ado, I'm going to kick things over to Jules, and she's going to get you right into the agenda for today. Take it away, Jules.
Awesome. Hey guys, we're going to have an exciting hour for you, hopefully passionate, and I think I just learned that our Q&A may not be interactive like I wanted, so I wanted to do a couple of things to keep us engaged. But we're going to talk about the retail landscape and its evolution. Product data, the way we see it, and hopefully the way you're seeing it and some of the challenges you may be dealing with, right? And we want you to know that we really understand retail and your business. And I guarantee there's more than retailers on the phone. And you're going to see that everything's kind of colliding now in our world, right? We'll talk about the 3 pitfalls that you're going to find important that visualize themselves in the journey of a PIM project, right? We want to talk about accelerators that make you more successful faster and why they're important. Right, and then we'll end with some Q&A. So without further ado, let's get rolling. I want to talk about the retail landscape and its evolution, right? Kind of 2 mini sections here. So really, retailers we know come in different shapes and sizes. So when you look at this screen right here, try to fit yourself right into one of these categories. Are you a general merchandiser, like a big store, or a discount, or variety store, or department store? Right? Are you a specialty retailer that maybe you're dealing with parts or books or vitamins or electronics or fashion? Are you a food retailer, right? Maybe it's a convenience store, a small local niche store, or are you a grocer, or are you a global chain? And from a leisure and entertainment perspective, think about hobby stores and sporting goods stores and entertainment, music, and videos, right? Where would you put yourself? And one of the things I wanted to do was so that we can all connect was shout out and say, where do you fit? What are you? You know, what is your category? Are you local? Are you a chain? Are you a franchise? Are you global, right? Because that will help us understand some of your needs. But from a perspective on the bottom, what you're seeing are some logos that apply to the various categories above, and I tried to position them kind of under the boxes so that you can see where you might fit. Okay. From where we've come, right? So I'm going to date myself, right? So way back when, brick and mortar was what was important, right? You went into the store, you went into Sears, and you got to take that vacuum in your hand and try it out. You got to put the clothes on, right? So brick and mortar was about an experience that was visceral, that allowed you to try things on, to touch them, to feel them, you know, even to taste food or candy at the candy store's counter before you bought, right? And we've progressed over time. Even when the catalogs or the green stamps, if anybody remembers a store called David Weiss, right? It was a store that had all the one of everything, and you got to go in with your little board and see the items and touch them before buying. So now fast forward to today, right? We're in a a world that is online. Social media is selling things to you, right? There's so many various channels that you can go to. And what are some of the problems that we're facing? Because then it was about the visceral experience. And now we need data. We need digital assets. And it's even more than that, right? It's become experiential. What does that mean? It means it's not just about giving you data and give you more pictures on these channels because you can't touch it and feel it. The retailers need to brand, right? Any company needs to brand. They're trying to drive you back into the stores. So to go to a coffee shop, for example, they might have a poet or a chess game going on, right? So they want to create experiences. I wear glasses so I can go and try on different glasses to see how they fit my face before I buy. That's experiential, right? And that's the growth path we're seeing today. Now, one of the things that will help you understand that we know retail, what we found in a typical PIM implementation are 3 key components that every customer wants, right? Data modeling, workflow, syndication. And I'm going to show you why the flat words of data modeling and workflows and syndication are just not enough, right? You have to go deeper. So this is where Syndigo comes in, working with Credency, and why we're different. So from a data modeling perspective, Syndigo is so flexible. It allows you to model what you're seeing here, a shirt or a product as an example. But we really don't care about vertical. We don't care about entity types. So it allows you to crawl, walk, run on your journey, right? It allows you to start somewhere and put in a product as an example. And maybe it's a specific category of a product, right? And then you associate those various attributes. And what are the attributes that might be related to that specific category, like a shirt versus a water bottle? And really the power in this Syndigo platform is the ability to create relationship across any entity type. So you're going to have a starting point. It might be managing your product, but it might be managing locations. It might be managing your customers, right? Might be managing fill in the blank. Doesn't matter to us. It's just what we call an entity type, the ability to, with our EARC modeling, have entities, attributes, relationships, and at the end of the day, you're going to learn about context. And I'm not going to cheat and give you that now, but it's really a different lens, okay? So if I give you a picture very quickly about what this looks like from a data modeling perspective, Syndigo makes the complex easy. It's allowing you, in this case, I picked something totally generic, but there are people who are trying to sell community homes that you design and build and work with the architects and designers and the construction and what house and what's the floor plans and what are the various components or products that go into that, like the sink and the faucet, right? And this is not able to be done with relational technology. Good thing we're not relational technology, so no DB2, SQL Server, Oracle license required, right? We're big data ready, so that's the flexibility in the modeling. Let's talk about workflow for a minute, right? It's about smart automation. So why do people want workflow? They want workflow because it allows them to hopefully automate a business process, getting the right data to the right person, right at the right time, and allowing them and alerting to them what they need to touch and fix along the way. Hopefully getting your products out to market faster, because that way we eliminate Jenny being on vacation or someone who forgets they need to do something because they wrote a note and put it on their desk and it just went out of their mind. A workflow will alert you. What it also does that you want it to do, hopefully, and this is where most fall down, is you want to incorporate automation. You want to incorporate data governance and quality controls. You want the system to be smart and do the work for you and only have users review if possible. So use AI to generate copy, right? To do auto translations, to use reference data so that someone doesn't have to type and make errors, and really work with exceptions through those workflows. And guess what? Maybe you don't need a workflow. So I need other mechanisms to alert me to the quality problems or visually or in a KPI wizard or something like that, because not always is a workflow required. So how do I handle those, right? And Syndigo can help you with that. And then lastly, I think the most important thing for folks is syndication, right? Where does that data need to go? So when you think about your data, right? My data, my way, you might say, and we're in a world that we used to say, hey, it's my data, it's going to be my way. But what we found through the data journey story is that the data needs to be big and huge, right? It's immense what we have to provide now, because people care about nutrition. They could care about sustainability. They care about traceability. Where has this product's been? Who's touched it? Are they diverse? Do they have fair trade practices? So it's not just about name and description and price anymore. It's about everything under the sun that you can provide to a customer, because they don't have that visceral experience, right? And then the ability to get that data out to those channels in the way the channel needs it. My data, their way, right? Or you would say my data, your way. So that's the context, the ability to wrapper a lens in a sense, so that when I send it to Amazon, and Amazon needs their own attributes and has their own taxonomy, and maybe they have their own business rules, and they require various assets in different formats, you're able to provide that to them because it's different than another channel. And that's what context is. So we're pushing the right data at the right time, because each one of those channels could have different needs, right? So if I sum it all up for you before I pass it off to Sagar here, Syndigo really is, in my opinion, I've been doing this 20 years, guys. I'm here to be of service to you. It's about getting it in, doing something with it, and getting it out. So what does that mean to Syndigo? From a get it in perspective, we have the data. We've got it. That's one of the greatest mind thoughts, I think, or ideas that Syndigo had is, let's go to all the manufacturers, that's called brand data, and let's get them to come into our tool, because we have this cockpit of power, this bottom corner screen down here, that allows a manufacturer in one screen to manage all those end channels, the quality controls. They understand it's the completeness scores, and be able to get the data to you as a retailer in the format you need, because you all may be different, and they can do it in one place. We have GDSN data, nutrition data, right? We have enhanced content, which is really being used now in that experiential retail need. From a get it out perspective, Syndigo then went to the retailers and said, let us partner with you. So we have all these connectors to endpoints already, and we have the ability to create new connectors, because we can't have every single one ready at the ready, because some of them people don't need. But if you do need it, we can easily and effortlessly create that connectors. And connectors make your life easier, because it becomes a mapping exercise instead of a config. What am I sending? Right? So we have those connectors. And some of those connectors allow you to get data back. So think about Dun & Bradstreet or Smarty Streets, where I can go to Dun & Bradstreet and get more information about the organization I'm working with. I can understand if the address they're giving me is valid. I can map it on a map. And at the end of the day, to do something with it is kind of like the screen I showed you before, totally different industry, which is very complex, copies complex. But the ability to define those attributes, create those relationships, and anything that you have in your business that has been too complex, especially for relational technology, we make it easy. And you can do it in a crawl, walk, run fashion. So I'm going to turn it over now to Sagar here. And I think before we do that, Abby, I think we're going to do a poll. So guys, what you're seeing here is we're going to just do a poll, and just thinking about what we talked about, fill in where your organization is now in terms of PIM. I know some folks may already have a PIM and they're not happy because of some of the limitations and the needs of the industry right now. Maybe you're a manufacturer who's traditionally just sending data to retailers, and now you're realizing you are selling as well. That's another trend we've seen, right? Manufacturers are becoming retailers. So if you can take a moment and fill in that poll, that'd be awesome. And I will stop sharing and turn over in this moment.
Pretty even distribution, we can see from the poll results.
Yeah.
Guys, Jules, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can. Why don't I
All
mute?
right. All right. Cool. Thank you, Jules. Thanks for the fantastic presentation and introduction to Syndigo. Just guys, before we get into the 3 pitfalls for a retail PIM implementation, just wanted to quickly come to terms as to how and why did we come up with this topic, right? And that's kind of interesting because the reason why we chose this topic is that we wanted to share our collective knowledge that we have gathered by having over 7 years of implementing PIM solutions, mostly at retailers and CPG and manufacturing companies, a large chunk being retailers and CPG companies, right? And what we wanted to do was share our understanding, share our experience of what are the 3 common pitfalls that companies or organizations usually fall into when they embark on the PIM implementation journey, right? And as we all know, a pitfall is something that is hidden, something that is not obvious, difficult to know, but it will and can cause problems later, right? So we'll quickly dive into those 3 pitfalls. So the 3 pitfalls that we picked out of, again, as I said, 100 plus PIM implementations over 7 years, but the 3 most common ones are here on your screen. They are the planning paradox, number 1, and we'll get to that, the scope and priority trap, and the third one is the adoption obstacle, right? So what we'll do now is, as we go through this conversation, I'll try and define what each of them means very quickly. Well, it's pretty obvious from the name, but I'll still try and define it very quickly and showcase some business impact of when you fall in this, or when you go through this pitfall, when organizations go into this pitfall, what happens? What is the impact of that pitfall? And then present strategies, 3 strategies each for each of these 3 pitfalls on how can they be avoided and how can you navigate successfully away from these pitfalls. Quickly, going into the first one. It's the planning paradox. We all have heard about it. So some organizations, they tend to underplan or overplan their PIM implementation. In either case, the impact on the PIM rollout is felt immediately or after a long time when the planning is done, but it is surely felt, right? And if I quickly go through the impact that we have seen our customers have when they get into this pitfall is there is misalignment with business goals, something that we had set when we started off the PIM implementation, and the goals that we had defined. Somehow during the journey of implementation, we feel that we are moving away from those goals, or we are not addressing them based on the priorities that we have set. The second major impact is not having an inclusive rollout, right? PIM invariably impacts, if you talk about a retailer, it impacts various departments within the organization, whether it is merchandising or buying, whether it is marketing, digital, commerce, sales, right? So it kind of impacts a lot of departments, and a lack of planning can lead you into an exclusionary rollout, which is basically leaving out some key actors on the system. And the third one, which we have faced frequently, is due to improper planning. We tend to get into an extended blueprinting phase, and that typically happens. And I'll give you an example of a very recent retailer that we worked with, and we had planned for like a 3-week blueprinting or discovery workshop, and then a 8 to 10 weeks of implementation. And just the discovery workshop went on for 6-7 weeks, and I'll come to that why that happened. Right, so from 3 weeks to 6-7 weeks, just trying to close out the blueprinting phase. Right, so those are some impacts that you would see when you encounter this pitfall. Let's look at the 3 strategies that can be used to avoid or navigate this pitfall. Right, so the first one is try and understand very PIM-specific challenges. Right, so what that means is that a lot of retail and CPG companies face very similar challenges that they are trying to overcome by implementing a PIM solution. And I've listed the 5 challenges here, which are the most common ones. All right, but the business impact of these challenges might be different depending on an organization to the other. But definitely these 5 would be at the top of everyone's mind. Right, quickly going through them. The first one, hey, I have complex product taxonomies and relationships, which means that my relationships are complex between products. There's a lot of attribution. There's a deep need for attribute segmentation, so on and so forth. Right, so it's really complex, and I want to solve it. So that's one of the challenges that you look at when you are trying to adopt a PIM system. That hopefully a PIM system will help me overcome this challenge. Right. The second challenge that you're looking at to overcome from a PIM solution is maintaining data quality and standardization across product data, right? And having some governance around it. The third one, which we see most commonly being overcome by PIM implementations, is the readiness to integrate. I mean, I have an ERP, I have a marketing system, right? I need to integrate with them. Plus, right now, my product is in silos. It's in Excel sheets, and it's in file systems. The digital assets are scattered, and part of my product information is my e-commerce system, and the other part is in the ERP. How do I get a single view of my product? So people have a lot of point-to-point integrations. You always have those favorite scripts that run overnight, try and put the pieces together and present a view the very next day. And then they have to run again to do that. And then a change comes in the organization and to rewrite those scripts. We all have been through that, right? So that's another challenge that companies want to overcome when they they embark on the PIM journey. Excuse me. The fourth one is supplier data management. Now, this is typically for retailers who have a lot of chatter between suppliers and the merchandising teams, or the buying teams, or the procurement teams, as we call them. And a lot of communication through emails, through various channels, data sent across in spreadsheets, data not validated properly, so on and so forth. So that's one challenge that definitely a lot of retailers who aggregate products from suppliers try to overcome using a PIM. And the fifth one is syndication, right? So syndicating for the future means I should be ready to syndicate or send this product information into any or all channels that I want in the future based on the business priority. Right? So these are typically the top 5 challenges that we see. But there are some unique challenges too. For example, we were working with one of the largest retailers. They had close to 2 million plus products. And their challenge was that they wanted to move from one PIM to another. And their PIM annual subscription was coming up in 4 months. And they really need to embark on the new PIM within those 4 months, or they have to, again, pay up the license fee for the next year. So they contacted us, and their priority was not one of these challenges. It was about data onboarding. How do we get data from PIM 1 to PIM 2? Right, so that's a unique one. So you won't see this see here on the slide, but there can be unique business challenges that you want to overcome with a PIM solution. Some of them are short and medium term, and some of them long term. Right, so the first step is to understand what challenges you are trying to solve and list them. right? So we'll go to the next one. The challenges itself, when you start listing them, they are your planning pillars, right? So these are the challenges that you should use for planning. Ideally, we recommend our customers to focus on one challenge at max two, right? So out of the 5-6 challenges that you're trying to overcome with a PIM, focus on 1 or 2 challenges, define your MVP, and the MVP is obviously based on the priorities of these challenges. And define key success factors and business outcomes just for that MVP. And have your target audience, your stakeholders for the MVP clearly defined. And the best way that you can remove any doubts about whether the PIM is going to work or not is to have a successful rollout of an MVP, right? Only an MVP can build trust within an organization. Not PowerPoint slides, not fancy products, or not good planning or whatever it is. Eventually, it is the MVP that will speak for itself. So plan for the MVP. Make sure that you bedazzle the initial stakeholders, so they become your champions for promoting PIM across the organization. And then the third strategy to avoid the planning paradox is have strategic alignment. So these days, especially in the last 2 or 3 years, digital transformation is probably not the word that we hear a lot from retailers, because most of them are in pretty advanced stages of their digital journey. What we are seeing is there's happening a lot of digital reboot within the organization. So in the last 12 months, at least the 4 retailers, large retailers we have come across, they are either changing their e-commerce system, moving from Shopify to Magento, or moving from Magento to Sales Commerce, and across, right? And they are getting a new order management system, or they are getting a new warehouse management system, and they need the PIM to integrate into that, right? So they are all, so PIM implementation eventually becomes a part of the larger digital program, and aligning your PIM implementation, your goals, your rollouts with the strategic digital initiative is extremely important, right? And just like any other implementation that we do, having proper importance of setting clear and measurable goals and milestones to track progress and define success is also extremely important. Right. Lastly, I'll come to change management. I'll probably have a lot more to discuss on change management plan, because that is something that we face a lot. So you roll out a PIM, and now what, right? What we have seen is the curve of adoption within companies who have a thought of change management plan, or a predefined change management plan, because it's changed to the merchandising team, to the marketing team who is enriching the products, to the digital and e-commerce team who is going to send this product off to the various sales channels that you guys have. So there's a lot of change that's going to happen in the way they do their day-to-day work. So how do you plan for that change? So right now in the planning stage, just make sure that we have a basic plan for change management ready, and we're going to elaborate a little bit more on that as we talk more. So that's all about the planning paradox. We spoke about what it is. We spoke about the impact, the business impact that it has. And we also spoke about the 3 strategies of how you list your challenges, make challenges your planning pillar, and create a roadmap that aligns with the strategic digital goals of the company. And always have a change management plan, right? Let's talk about the second one. This is the one that we encounter a lot again. And typically this happens, and we all know this one. Anyone who has been through a software development lifecycle knows what a scope and priority trap is. That's a classic problem. And why does it happen, right? So in PIM implementation specifically, it happens because there's a lot of excitement amongst all stakeholders when the PIM is being introduced, or is in the blueprinting phase, or is in the implementation phase. And a lot of this excitement is good, but curtailing the excitement and still focusing on the planning. Remember the challenges that I spoke about. Try and focus on the MVP, try and solve 1 or 2 challenges at a time is extremely important. The other reason why people tend to fall into this trap are the inability to manage expectations from the top management. And yes, we have seen that. So sorry for putting it out bluntly, but that's what happens. We were working with a retailer, and their challenge was managing suppliers and the data that the suppliers sent. And that was the first challenge that we all agreed on. And we did the blueprinting phase, and we were in the process of implementing with their merchandising team, getting them aligned with their suppliers, getting the suppliers onboarded, so on and so forth. And out of the blue, we hear, okay, sustainability is something that the management needs to focus on, and it has to be part of the PIM implementation. Now that's good. Sustainability is a good problem to solve. I'm not saying that it's something that can be ignored, but again, how can a PIM solve it? By having end-to-end traceability of sustainability of the process, of the ingredients, of the raw materials, of the sourcing, so on and so forth. But that was not part of the initial plan. So in this case, though, after probably a week's time, having 6 or 7 meetings with various stakeholders, including the management, we were able to consult our client and say that, hey, let's stick to the plan. Let's help your merchandisers solve the problem that they are having with managing supply data first. The sustainability problem is not going anywhere. Let's phase it out. Let's do it later, right? So that's where we see people falling into scope and priority trap a lot. And the third one is, obviously, if you have already gotten yourself into the pitfall of the planning paradox, which means we did not focus on challenges. We tried to do a lot at the same time. Eventually, there are very high chances we'll fall into this trap too, right? So let's see specifically for a PIM implementation for a retailer, what are the 3 strategies that can be used to avoid falling into this trap? Right. All right, think big, act small, be iterative, agile, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we have heard it a lot. Very simple to say and assume that we will all follow this principle when we implement something. But a lot of times we have seen that our customers try to push an elephant through the door. Now, again, it could be because of increased excitement about the new animal that is coming to the zoo, which is the PIM. People are very excited about that, and they are pushing their own agenda. Each department does that. And usually, a lot of it is applicable to companies where the product data is very complex, right? And it has attributions, different taxonomies, hierarchies of data, complex relationships between products. And the question here that you can ask is, can I break it down? Can I scope it? Well, you can, right? So the planning that you did in the initial stages of the PIM implementation can help you do that. So by focusing on challenges, for example, let's say your challenge was managing supplier data, helping out the merchandising in your organization, right? So you can do that. But you also know that the data model that you are creating inside a PIM solution when you implement it is going to have a lot of data that is only used for syndication, right? That is channel or context specific data. Do you need that right now? Do I need to model that right now? Do I need to import that right now? Do I need to manage it? Do I need to enrich it right now? Probably not. You can probably do it later. And thanks to Syndigo being such a flexible PIM solution, that it allows you to incrementally build up your product model as you go, right? So you get your essential attributes in first, you focus on quality, not on quantity, focus on the attributes, focus on the model, focus on the workflows that you absolutely need to address your 1 or 2 challenges that you have listed based on your business priorities, of course, and then do incremental enrichment of those attributes, right? So extremely important to keep that in mind, that a lot of products don't allow you to do that. A lot of products are rigid in terms of, okay, you need to get the data model in first, but and absolutely right before you can do anything else. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot of rework, right? So, but Syndigo is a product which allows you to build your PIM implementation incrementally. Moving on to the next one. When it comes to scope and priority, it's very important. What is the business outcome that you're going for, right? So you can always create phases in your PIM rollout based on prioritized business outcomes, right? So the 4 outcomes that people are generally looking for in any PIM solution is catalog management, right? So you want to prioritize features that streamline catalog management as they directly impact your time to market for products. You want to have your catalog updated as soon as the data comes in. You want the catalog updated so that it can be pushed out to your sales channels. Extremely important, right? Integration capabilities. It needs to integrate with system X, system Y, system Z. I need to send data to these 3 systems, 4 channels, right? Extremely important. That business outcome too. Omni-channel consistency, this is where data quality and governance comes in. Right? That again is a very important business outcome. What I would advise is, and the fourth one is agile response to retail trends, right? Like Jules was talking about experiential marketing, social commerce. We're talking about sustainability these days for retailers, right? So obviously we want to be agile to retail trends, but pick your business outcomes first. And if you are in the initial stages of implementing, pick the one that gives you the biggest bang for the buck, I would say, and you move ahead with that. Right? The next one I'm going to talk about is always start with an accelerator. So what is an accelerator, right? So, well, something that increases speed over a period of time is the scientific definition of it. But what it really means is that your accelerator should not be hurriedly put 7 or 8 attributes into a product data model with a dummy workflow that is demonstrated when you're trying to buy a PIM product, right? An accelerator should have certain features, and I will come to that as to what are the features that you should expect out of an accelerator, right? And how do you know that that's the right one when you see one, right? So we'll come to that later as to what are the features and benefits of using an accelerator, but that definitely helps you avoid and navigate the scope and priority trap, right? Before I go to the next one, the third one, which is the last, the adoption obstacle, I just want to quickly summarize the scope and priority trap, right? So very high chances that we'll fall into this trap. We've already fallen into the planning paradox trap. So make sure that you navigate through the planning paradox problem, and make sure you have your business priorities, your business outcomes properly aligned. Your data scope management is done. You choose the right product that allows you to build incrementally, extremely important. And then you always start with an accelerator, right? So let's move on to the third one, which this is again, and we picked only 3 guys. The reason why we picked 3 is that these are the 3 most common obstacles, the common pitfalls that we see in PIM implementations. And again, I'm just stressing it again and again. This is not something that is picked out of thin air. We have some data to support it, which you'll see in the end. But this is coming out of implementing more than 100 PIM implementations or putting those PIMs through organizations and supporting more than 40 of them in production right now. Right. So Credences has been supporting PIM applications in production since 5 years, and hence we know a lot about the adoption obstacle, which is the one that you see on your screen. Right. So what happens when you fall in this pitfall? Right. What's the impact? Right. Well, the impact is there is dissatisfaction in early adopters. Right. So they're not very happy with the way they have to do things now. Compared to the easy Excel sheets or the scripts or the emails or whatever way databases that they have been using for years, and that has to change, right? So if you fall in this pitfall and you don't manage it properly, there is going to be a lot of dissatisfaction in early adopters. And what we have seen is that the early adopters are the ones that are very vocal, have a voice in the organization. It kind of gets escalated, and then the management starts having doubts about the ROI of the entire implementation. Hey, is this PIM going to really benefit me, or is it just too much for my organizations, right? So those are the impacts that you would see if you fall into this pitfall. Let's look at the strategies to avoid them, right? And before even we look at the strategies, I just want to share a personal thing with me. Well, I was the one who was very dissatisfied with being an early adopter. So back then, I used to work for a company called Toyota out of Los Angeles, and I was given a system that was a new system to deploy applications, and I was like, hey, this is not good. I hated it because I was so comfortable with the current process that I was using, and because I was the one who built it, right? So I wanted everybody to use it, right? So I went through that, and I've been on the other side, so I know how it feels when change management is kind of pushed down your throat, right? So let's see how to adopt. What are the strategies to avoid the adoption obstacle. Right? There is always a human element in PIM. I know that's a Dilbert strip. You can go through it. Many of you might have faced it in your company, being on the other side, like I did, obviously. Right? So, you know what they say, you built it and they will come. Well, it worked for Disneyland, but it's not going to work for your PIM implementation. Right? So you build it and they will come does not and absolutely will not work for your PIM implementation. There is always going to be cultural resistance to change, right? There is always going to be people who are going to question the new way of doing things, right? So how do you do that, right? So you understand that, first of all, the understanding that there is a human element in PIM implementations, right? Well, having a lot of the times when people roll out new PIM implementations, they create user manuals and videos on how to use it, and they pass it on to the merchandising team and the marketing team. Hey, this is how you're going to enrich products. Or to the merchandising team, here's how you're going to conversate with your supplier. Here's how data exchange is going to happen. This is what you're going to do. Press this to do that. Press that to do that, right? So you get all those user manuals, videos, but there's some fundamental thing that is lacking, and this is what we have learned by supporting a lot of PIM implementations in production, right? So I'll come to that.
Hi, folks. I just want to jump in really quick and just remind you that if you have any Q&A, we're getting to the end of the webinar here. So if you have any questions, please throw them into the Zoom control panel. Don't forget to leave your name as well so we can address you correctly. All right, so that'll do it for me. Of course.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you, Abby. So you communicate and facilitate, right? So you explain them why they are doing things and then what they are supposed to do. Shoving down user manuals and videos through their throats is not going to work. The people who have to change their daily habits on how to do my merchandising tasks or marketing or digital or commerce tasks need to know why they are doing it before they know what to do and how to do it, right? So focus on that. Have user training specific to the departments that are being impacted. Right, and you always, and this is something that is part of our support that we do. We gather feedback as part of our implementation credences. When we are supporting PIM implementations, we gather feedback from user groups. We incentivize adoption, talk to the management for driving this across the organization, and we keep on monitoring and measuring the adoption so that we can graph it and present success to the management. So that's extremely important, right? So quickly summarizing the three obstacles that we spoke about: the adoption obstacle, the scope and priority trap, and the planning paradox. These are percentages of clients that risked falling into one of these three pitfalls. They did not necessarily fall into this pitfall. A lot of them were navigated away because of what we have learned and what I'm sharing here, what our team has learned primarily onto how to navigate across this pitfall. And you'll be surprised that 68% fell into the adoption obstacle that I was talking about more than 50% into the scope and priority trap, and about 35% in the planning paradox, right? So quickly, guys, let's have a poll. Let's see which of these pitfalls have you faced and are concerned about. Abby, if you can help us here, throw the poll across and see what do we get. Yeah, and the next topic, guys, that I'm going to talk about is, remember I spoke about the retail accelerator, right? So I'm going to talk about what are the features that you should expect in a retail accelerator and what are the benefits of it, and show you a live example of what happens when an accelerator is used and versus a regular PIM implementation. Okay, scope and priority, that's what I thought. Okay, that's my favorite one too. Thank you, guys. Thank you for that. So we have scope and priority probably at 70%. So I understand that. And it's probably because if you fall into the planning paradox, you're eventually getting into the scope and priority trap, right? So applied knowledge is power, right? So let's quickly get into the retail accelerator. Some key features that you should expect out of an accelerator model, right? So it should not be, like I said, the data model of the product should not be something that has just been put together very quickly. For example, the credentials accelerator that we have, it has industry grade pre-built data models with over 50 plus reference data sets ready to use, right? So it's just not something that has been put together for a demo. It's actually derived from our knowledge of working with retailers over the last 7 years, right? Templates for integration, your ready-made connectors for syndication, pre-built workflows. We know the user roles that exist in each retail company. And most of them are 90% of user roles and workflows are very similar across retail companies. And they just need some tweaks. So why not build it? And that's what the Credensys Accelerator has, right? Built-in checks for quality of your data, right? Managing supplier data. Is the data that you are sending out context-aware, multi-channel, multi-region, multi-locale? Is it there? Gathering data for performance from your digital shell. And again, asset management when it comes to images and videos, right? So these are the top 8 features that you should expect from a retail accelerator. Now, let's quickly look at the benefits. On the left side of your screen, the left half, what you see is what are the benefits that you get, right? So you get industry best practices rolled into it. So you don't have to actually worry about getting into these pitfalls. The best practices are included so that you automatically navigate through these pitfalls, right? And when I say best practices, it's just not in the modeling part of it. It's in the workflow. It's in the integrations. And I'll come to that where all the best practices are followed. It's a faster system to set up. We always promote 10 weeks to MVP. That's what we want to do. Have rapid data onboarding, right? Get your data in quick, quick integration and syndication. And on top of it, it is 100% customizable. So what that means is that if you start with an accelerator that we have built on Syndigo, right? It does not keep you from doing things. It's not a guardrail. It's basically an amalgamation of best practices that we have put together that can be leveraged to give you a kickstart. So instead of starting at square one, you are now starting at square 30, right? And you see on the graph, the blue line represents a regular implementation of a PIM solution, two different retailers, similar sized, similar complexity. The one in blue is the implementation graph across 6 months that we went through. And the one on the top, the green one that you see is the one where we use the accelerator, right? So you see we achieved the desired results in 3.5 months. That's how effective the accelerators are. So that's why I told you always start with an accelerator, right? And quickly coming back to the slide that Jules had presented earlier. So the accelerator that I spoke about, which started from getting data onboarded, having workflows to enrich data, and then syndicating data across. The accelerator that Credensys has, that we have built using our best practices, using our knowledge that we have gained, kind of covers this entire landscape of product data, right from source till the destination. So that was it, guys. Quickly summarizing, we went through the 3 pitfalls, strategies on how to avoid those pitfalls. We also got a sneak peek into the retail accelerator and how can it help. One question that I got really quick that I want to answer is, does this accelerator work for a CPG company? Definitely it works. CPG companies have similar pitfalls that can be navigated and be avoided by using the accelerator. And this accelerator we have successfully used with large CPG companies as well. So that's a question that I would quickly like to answer before I throw it open for Q&A and next steps.
Thank you both so much. This has been a very riveting presentation. And we've got a few questions that have been unanswered. So let's take the last 10-ish minutes to wrap these up. All right, so the first question comes from someone in a CPG vertical. They want to know how these pitfalls would apply to the CPG vertical that they're in.
Good question there. So the CPG pitfall, the pitfalls that are very, very applicable to CPG, right? Sorry for loss of words, but the pitfalls that you saw are very applicable to CPG because these days CPGs is not only about getting data and sending it to the retailers, distributors. A lot of CPG companies are going for D2C, direct marketing, or trying to sell over marketplaces. So they have that syndication problem, right? They have the data maturity problem. So definitely these pitfalls do apply to CPG companies.
Great, thank you so much. This next question asks, would the accelerator restrict me as we try to expand to meet other business requirements?
That's a fantastic question. So the accelerator, if you look at it, it's built on top of Syndigo, right? And what it does is it kind of implements the best practices put together. It's in no way inhibiting anyone, whether it's a retail, CPG, or manufacturing company, to go ahead and implement according to their business processes and their business model. It's not. It's actually geared to be 100% customizable, 100% flexible.
Excellent. In addition to that question, they ask about the cost of the accelerator.
Well, it's at no cost. What we have done is, I think a couple of years back when we started looking at all the pitfalls that normally people fall into while they are implementing PIMs, we thought, why not put together something that helps them navigate these pitfalls? And that's the basis of the accelerator. And the accelerator is based on our industry knowledge of implementing PIM for retail and CPG companies. And it absolutely comes at no cost. I think it provides a great value to customers whom we have worked with, like the graph that I showed you, clearly impact of 6 months of implementations versus 3.5. But right now, absolutely, there is no cost to the accelerator from Credences.
Thank you, Sagar. While we continue these questions, I ask that we pull up the CTA slide so people can take a look at some of the next steps that we're going to have. Let's move right back into the questions. This person has partnered with Walmart. They're selling their products with Walmart online. Walmart has asked them to improve their enhanced content to help with Syndigo. They'd like to know if this has anything to do with or related to enhanced content or products. So the information today, what does it have to do with enhanced content?
Jules, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I know that we have a tight relationship with Walmart, and they are changing things. And just like some of the vendors want enhanced content and 360-degree views and things like that, I'm not tied to Walmart, so I can't give you all the details of their next level, but getting more enhanced content is part of their strategy.
Right, exactly. Thank you, Jules. This next person asks, with all the information covered today, how does this change the way I introduce products via Syndigo?
Do you want me to take that one?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. And I think it goes with someone asking about brand data. Some of the questions that I've seen come through, we haven't gotten to all of them yet, right? So one of the advantages of Syndigo is because we have so much brand data is the manufacturer's data, right? And we have a lot of their data because we have relationships with them, and retailers needed that data. So it's already in the Syndigo network, right? And so my dream would be for every manufacturer to have their data being managed in the tool, because then their life becomes easier. So everybody that asks for their data, because it's very hard for suppliers. Many customers start with just that supplier use case. They can't, you guys that that need the data can't get the data, and you can't get it in the format you want because everybody wants it differently. So if you're a manufacturer, getting on the Syndigo network, right? It's very affordable, it's easy, and it will give you that cockpit of power that I described, that it would allow you then to manage who you're sending your data out to.
Right on. Thank you for that. This one, not all PIMs are the same. Right. That's so true. This one asks, what pitfalls should organizations avoid if they're considering moving from one PIM to another?
I can take that one. So we have worked on implementations where we had to take over from an already implemented PIM, and it varies a lot. It's very contextual. But data onboarding into your new PIM that you choose is the top priority. Obviously, that's the first one. And now you cascade it. So in order to have your data onboarded, you need to have your data model set. Probably the workflows are not important at that time, but your modeling and your ingestion and onboarding of data is the top priority when if I would, how easy it is to do that in the new platform is something that I would look out for.
Super, thanks. We've got one more question, or maybe room for two more. We want to get to the next steps. So let's make this the last one. And if we haven't answered your question, we'll make sure that we answer via email. Thank you all so much for your participation. Here is the last one. How easy is it to design workflow in Syndigo? Is it a modular designer or is it coding?
No, it's ease of use, right? It's a drag and drop panel of controls. Think of it about a palette of paint, right? I'm a painter, I dip in red. So you pull the control you want in and you click it and what you need to fill in, what role, what users, it's all fill in the blank drop down list boxes, and you just string the workflows together. Very, very easy. And as you saw on the screenshot, the ability to have decision points, right? So I want to separate the data coming in by a brand as an example, or by a category or categories in a hierarchy. I can do that. I can do parallel steps and sequential steps, right? So that's very, very easy to do with the workflow designer.
I think that's a great analogy. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you to both of our presenters. Can I pass it back to you all to wrap things up and talk about what we've got here on the screen?
Yeah.
We're going to be at NRF. If you want to scan the QR code, have some dinner with us, have a one-on-one chat. We'll be in New York City. If you are as well, we would love to catch up with you, meet up. So feel free to scan the code or get on the list here at credences.com/NRF2024. Also feel free to reach out to Cigar for Credences, how they can help you with your PIM journey. Again, thank you to both of our presenters today, and thank you to our audience. We appreciate you all participating in the webinar. Again, we'll be sure to send a follow-up email with some of the many links that we've referenced in this webinar, as well as the webinar recording. And keep your eyes peeled for any upcoming webinar invites for the continuation of partnership with Credences and Syndigo, because we really look forward to seeing you again here in the audience. And I think that will just about do it. 1 minute to spare.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Really great to have you.
Thank you, Abby. Thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Appreciate it.